Welcome to your final Championship transfer update for summer 2025. If the EFL Championship was like one of those big carpet shops, you'd be throwing up the last few days, sale ends soon signs, wouldn't you? It's like 3.5 days when you think about it. Monday, 7 p.m, we are closing the transfer window. We'll do some analysis after, obviously. However, this will be the last actual update video. I was kind of thinking this is a good time to do it because maybe things will pause now for at least 24 hours whilst games are played. But with the nature of this transfer window, and it's been so balmy and things have been so delayed, I'm expecting a ridiculous few days. And that probably means agents, sporting directors, COOs, CFOs, etc., whoever's doing all the dealing, are going to just be going through match day tomorrow, working on deals. We'll get into that. As ever, we'll try and talk about done deals. We'll talk about a few things that are bubbling and we think close as well. And we try and deal with every transfer into every single club. Get down there in the comments. And for clarity, I will be using Transfermarkt as my source. Please don't get too het up about transfer fees. Send Transfermarkt a strongly worded letter if you disagree with what they are reporting. Let's go to our three parachute clubs. And finally, particularly at Ipswich and Southampton, the dam has broken. We said August is always tough. The Premier League pushes it to the last minute. Always, you're more online with the Premier League than you are with the Championship in terms of your saleable assets going out. But things have actually started to happen. We talk about Leicester first, where it's just been all out. And I guess the idea is they're just clearing the decks here, Leicester. They've literally done no inward business in terms of actual fees paid. And since we last spoke, Casey McAteer, James Justin have also gone out. Transfermarkt's reporting they've raised 54 million euros, all profit, given that they've not spent any in fees. So look, if that's what Leicester had to do just to end this horrible financial run they've had of basically being in breach for about 3 years in a row now, then, so be it, and get it done and move the club forward. We don't seem any further forward with Bilal El Khanous, do we? And that seems to be the latest deal that's turning, or the latest situation that's turning a bit player powery. Obviously, we've all been watching Newcastle lad Isak, Amari Hutchinson at my club, Ipswich. That was very much I'm off. And surely El Khanous will go before the end of the season or the end of the window, excuse me. And this big late domino of Eze, Palace to Arsenal probably will affect the Championship in respects of where Palace go. I think some money will probably come into the Championship, or a player will go out of the Championship, maybe El Khanous. So, yeah, that's the state of play at Leicester. At Ipswich, obviously, the mind-bending transfer story probably of the decade broke on Wednesday night with Norwich City's Marcelino Nunes. Apparently, it's all signed, sealed, delivered, and just not announced. So we'll see if they can, many a slip betwixt cup and lip. But we'll see if that gets announced today. Just an incredible news story that, in terms of the two rival clubs, never really dealing with each other, and certainly not for fees, and certainly not for key players. But here we are now with, as I said on a few shows yesterday, a Chilean player going between two American-owned clubs. So, read into that what you will. I'm not going to talk too much about Nunes because, honestly, people are probably sick of my face and sick of me talking about it after yesterday when I spent the whole day on various news outlets being interviewed about it. So check that out. But I'll just say, what a news story that is. Since we last spoke, though, Casey McAteer is the first one I'll talk about. And I know lots of positivity from an Ipswich transfer point of view yesterday. We'll get on to Furlong and Azon. But McAteer, I've got to admit, is one I haven't spoken about much that I did find a bit weird in terms of a sort of Leicester squad player. And the fee comes up around like 14 million euros. It's coming up here. So I guess that's one where you just hope that the club are proved right and he does very well and you're signing potential and a young player, 23 years old, and they talk particularly about his physical profiling and all of that data-y stuff. But I got to admit that one did feel a very high fee for the player. But let's see, and I'll keep my fingers crossed with my supporters hat on that works out right. One that's a bit more of a guarantee is Darnell Furlong. We think £3.5 million, and just we often talk about different types of deals that are done in the Championship, and particularly in the PSR era, you do tend to have to buy young players, often from abroad or from the lower leagues, try and build them up, build stars, build assets, in theory to sell them on in the end. You're in the Championship, which for really good players is a holding pen for the Premier League. We all know that, or for other leagues around Europe. There are different types of deals like this one, which if you're a year-round parachute team, you can do, where you just take, I think it's like 200 plus games he's had for West Brom. You just take a player who is immediately ready to go. You could literally, probably without even doing one session with him, stick him in a Championship game and he'd probably perform all right. So, yeah, I've always kind of liked Furlong. I've done a million watch-alongs of West Brom. They're always a good, I think they do good TV ratings, West Brom, don't they? They've always been on Sky over the last few years while we've been doing the channel. Great long throw-in, really good in the air for his size, hugely experienced. And yeah, probably if you're not a parachute team, you can't do a £3 million deal for a 29-year-old in terms of there being no massive upside on the back end. But for Ipswich right now, given Harry Clark kind of moved on from him, Ben Johnson doesn't quite work at right back, the deal makes a lot of sense. As does the loan deal for Ivan Azon, who's a 22-year-old Spanish striker coming in from Como in Italy on loan. My understanding from doing the Blue Monday podcast last night is that Ipswich wanted this to be a loan with the obligation, but there's been a bit of to and fro, and the best they can do is a straight loan, which does mean if he does really well, then, potentially other clubs are going to have the pick of him. So it's a good deal for Azon, but Ipswich, God, they needed an extra striker in there with George Hurst. I know Akpom could be used as a 9 as well. So if Nunes is announced, I think Ipswich are probably sorted for their window, although heartbreakingly for me, and I mean, it can't get much worse for me than Nathan Broadhead going, because he was my absolute favourite player of the double promotion team, but probably a Luke Wolfenden, a Connor Chaplin, etc. could be sold now as well. And as a football fan, you fall in love with a particular team, it will get broken up in the end. In the words of Axl Rose, nothing lasts forever. I can't remember. Nothing lasts forever. I don't know what the next line is. Something about the November rain. Since we last spoke, Murray Hutchinson has also been sold. Huge balance sheet, good deal for Ipswich. He was a great player there for a season or two, basically. Brilliant at the end of the Championship season. And that's just where you are signing the young elite players. The top clubs have such a protection now in terms of buybacks, in terms of sell-ons, that Ipswich have found with Hutchinson and Liam Delap. You might be able to get the player, but if they do well, the elite clubs are straight back in on top of you. And I think the clause was 35 million, and Nottingham Forest in the end took him for 37.5 million. A giant record fee for sale for Ipswich. Right, Southampton I'm really eager to talk about, because there is plenty going on with Saints. And yeah, I know first world problems the rest of the teams without parachute payments will be thinking, but it's been a bit of a nightmare for Southampton waiting for Tyler Diblin and Matthias Fernandes to be sold. Dibbling has definitely gone, says here, 40 million euros for the fee to Everton. And Yeah, I've been watching Will Still's presses, and he's been gradually getting more and more fed up being asked about this. We did see him off the bench, actually, in the watch-along Ipswich Southampton, didn't we? So they've kept him ticking over, but they knew that deal was going to be done. We think Fernandes is going to be announced to West Ham for a reasonably similar amount. And remember, Southampton have also, I mean, it already says 72 million euros in for the likes of Onuachu, Ameo, Bednarek, Sulemana have also gone as well. So they've brought in a ton of money, Southampton. Do you know what? I was wrong about this. I said, well, Southampton, when they came down last, they had Livramento and Ward-Prowse. There was one other massive one that I can't remember that they... Lavia. They sold, got massive money. I said, they're not going to be able to raise that much this time. Well, they've raised a hell of an amount as well. So fair play, Saints, who have always traded well and particularly sold well over like 15 years now, haven't they? They've been brilliant. Southampton. So, on the incomings, Mads Roerslev, that was already done before the weekend, and that's a really solid signing, isn't it? Someone who's been up in the Premier League, who is 26 as well, knows English football very well, and has presumably been well coached at Brentford as well. And we are expecting Tom Fellows and Finn Azaz. And I think the good thing you get with Tom Fellows and Finn Azaz, I was talking about the Furlong deal to Ipswich, where that's pretty much just a right now signing, whereas these two are right now signings plus future potential as well. Both good age. Azaz, as Will Still said in his presser yesterday, just whatever team he's in. Look at the key pass, assist, goals, progressive pass, dribbles, shots, metrics. He's just a numbers magnet, isn't he? Finn Azaz, just very productive attacking player. And will he be ready if they go up to the Premier League? Possibly. But you're signing a young player who he's certainly going to have an impact at Championship level. And Tom Fellows for £10 million, I dare say as a Ipswich fan who've just dropped 14 million or 12 million or whatever it is with euros and pounds here on Casey McAteer in the same position. I don't know. Hopefully McAteer proves me wrong on that one. But yeah, Fellows is great, isn't he? Really, really good winger. We've known about him for a long time. And kind of old school. If you watch footage of Nottingham Forest with John Robertson, where you can literally stop, stand up the fullback, even close to the penalty box, close to the touchline, quickly shift it and cross it. Proper 4-4-2 old school winger. So we'll talk about the impact of that on West Brom. But for Southampton, we've already said with Downs and Armstrong and Diaz and Stewart. I'm probably missing out other strikers there. They've, just serviced those players up front, and Fellows will be able to do that. So there you go. Those are your year one parachute teams, and particularly in Ipswich and Southampton's case, I think finally let battle commence. And we knew it would go late. I've been saying it all summer. Get your views in the comments. Here are your playoff losers from last season. We've got another Zetterstrom in the division in at Sheffield United. Not the Derby goalkeeper. That's going to confuse the hell out of me. This is Nils Zetterstrom, which comes in chunky fee, 3 million euros, a Swedish centre-back. And talk about Championship ready to go. Japhet Tanganga. Why hasn't he gone to the Premier League, I wonder? There was a clause in the contract at Millwall where a Premier League team could take him for quite a low fee, was my understanding. Sheffield United have taken him, so I assume they've had to pay well over what the clause was because they are not a Premier League team. But yeah, that's a really good signing. I'll be interested in the Millwall's fans' take from Tanganga's point of view. In terms of the upside, I know Sheffield United are year two parachute and in theory should be able to finish higher than Millwall this season, but Millwall have started really well, look nice and solid, and I don't know, will those two clubs come what may be quite close together in the table? You tell me in the comments, but if you're a Championship club, Tanganga, stick him in centre-back, bosh. Easy. Job done. Danny Ings. You can still find him. How old is Danny Ings? 33. I bet he still knows where the goal is, though. He scored tons of goals over his career and built up in the Championship. Do you remember Ings and Austin at Burnley? God, we're going back to like 2012, 13. Burnley fans will tell me that we don't have any Burnley fans watching this because they're in the Premier League now. But you know what I'm saying. I remember watching them years and years ago. Ings, I'm sure he's just going to be used off the bench, isn't he, in that type of role, given Tyrese Campbell, Tom Cannon will be the first choice strikers there. But I don't know. Experience around the place. Training ground, mentoring young strikers. And of course, if you're in any type of game state, winning, losing or drawing, you know, as in you need to defend a lead or, you know, try and get a second goal, Ings will be able to come in off the bench in any of those states. So that one makes sense as well, depending on salary, of course, but I'm sure they've made that very much performance-based if they're sensible. Ben Godfrey as well. Promoted out of this league with Norwich spectacularly playing centre-back in 2019. Big ticket transfer to Everton. He's been Atalanta in Italy as well. Little, very unsuccessful loan at Ipswich last season, which blink and you would have missed it. But maybe this is it now. Top-end championship. Can play centre-back, can play right-back as well. Fine physical specimen, but just needs to get their career moving again. Now, he's only 27, so there's another good few years there. Potential. Could he do another run at the Premier League if he can really get his form back? And, yeah, it's certainly worth having around and probably a starter, I would think, there at Sheffield United, who have really now gone big on defence, haven't they? Particularly those three we've just spoken about, Zetterstrom, Tanganga, and Godfrey. Let me know your thoughts. Blades fans, Coventry, I mean, they're happily just banging all the goals in, aren't they, at the moment? Van Evik still hasn't been sold. I've literally said every transfer update, Van Evik, he's still there. Van Evik, he's still there. Yeah, he's still there. I think it's Wolfsburg in Germany now, but that hasn't been announced. I don't know. Maybe Coventry have got something they want to do on the other end, and there'll be two announcements, you know, kind of at the same time. But yeah, that's all she wrote really at Coventry. And I suppose the key signing for Cov is the stadium that they now own. And yeah, sometimes, as Liverpool proved with Arne Slot, if you had a decent season last season and you trended in the right direction and your players might be a little bit better this season than they were last season, just based on experience and your pattern of plays are building, then you don't have to do a lot. And Coventry's start to the season perhaps proves that. Bristol City, yeah, nothing doing as well since we last spoke. Those are your playoff losers. Let me know if you're a fan of any of those teams and transfer business and anything you might expect before Monday at 7 p.m. Here are the rest of your top 10 from last season. Where am I going first? I'm going to Ewood Park, Blackburn Rovers, where, and it's great, isn't it? The Asian market now is so big in the Championship. It feels like one of the last untapped markets, being, you know, clubs have gone all around Europe now. We've seen like Pompey do Australia. I remember Norwich went German after Huddersfield went German, and then I remember Barnsley going like Austrian and that part of Europe. And yeah, there's a giant landmass called Asia there, and plenty of good footballers. This is Ryoya Morishita. There you go. They've already got Akashi there, haven't they? At Blackburn. So yeah, it's not the first time gone to this market. He comes in from Legia Warsaw, attacking midfielder for, says 2 million euros in here for Rovers. There's also one more in on loan, Musa Baraji, who's come in from Yvden Sport, who I've never heard of, a central midfielder who's quite highly valued. And when we get to Derby, we'll talk about Lewis Travis and the reason that that deal has presumably been done. So yeah, pretty much ticking over management there in terms of Blackburn. They've bought some money in, obviously, for Travis and Britton. ranking Costello. Buckley as well. He's gone to, is that Saudi? Al Kholoud, probably that part of the world. He'd been there for the longest time. So, yeah, it says there, Transfermarkt doesn't pop undisclosed fees in. So it says they're down 5 million euros, but they're not really being. In fact, they might be at break even or in profit at the moment. Rovers fans probably be able to give me a better guess on that. But yeah, decent squad management. And, well, the question I ask Rovers fans is, are they weaker? Are they stronger? Well, look, football fans are always going to say they're stronger, aren't they? But it feels like they haven't dropped off much in terms of having to sell a few players, but you're always looking for new players. Have to settle, don't they? Have to kick on when they arrive. Millwall, we're only talking about Tanganga, and I don't know. If you're a Millwall fan, had you always expected the season to be done without Japhet Tanganga? So, is this a disaster? Had you been planning that he wasn't going to be there anyhow? Who did Millwall play at centre-half up at Sheffield United? The partnership there was Kramer, who's moved across. I think Sam was mentioning that on the Championship check-in with the evergreen Jake Cooper, who, if we're doing a video about Millwall in 10 years' time, will probably still be playing centre-half for the Lions. Let's move on to West Brom, where it has been busy. We've already mentioned Furlong, and we've already mentioned Fellows. So the right-hand side of West Brom's team has just been sold, which isn't the greatest news in the world. They've also sold Torbjorn Hegem. Looks like they've flipped that quite well, though. 7.5 million euros, it says, to Bologna. So what this does mean, we'll talk about Chris Mepham in a second, is that the Baggies, when we spoke at the start of the summer, we said, okay, well, it looks like concentrated business for decent fees in terms of Phillips and Campbell. We did Bielik last time, Hegebo up top. Really signed essentially 4 players who can play centre-back as well. Now we're going to talk about Mepham. And we wondered what the PSR position was going to be. Well, and I suppose this is a sensible way to do it in terms of if you want to get your business done early, and especially if you've got a new manager coming in, especially a young manager who's making his way in the game, wants to really get his feet under the table, work the players through a summer pre-season, then do it this way. It's just disappointing when you're selling good players, key players who, let's be honest, Fellows is, well, I know Isaac Price has kind of stepped up as the hot hand at the moment, but he's a real star in that team, Fellows, and you never want to be selling star players. I know I said it's the Championship. You have to sell your star players. But, disappointing to see them go right at the end of the window. Chris Mepham comes in. He's been a solid player, sturdy. Where was he? Brentford, wasn't he? Can't remember where he was before Brentford. Someone will tell me in the chat, won't they? But, yeah, I mean, he was playing in the playoff. Did he play in the playoffs? Might not have actually started the games. I can't remember there. But look, he was involved with Sunderland getting promoted through the playoffs and playing up in the top 6 last season. So real steady player, only 27, and they've signed him on a permanent from Bournemouth. So they're really well stocked now at the back there, and that seems to be where they're building from under Ryan Mason. But yeah, Baggies fans, how disappointed are you? Furlong, Hegem, Fellows, all out, and I suppose 20 million plus euros banked on the way in. Let me know your thoughts. Middlesbrough, we normally start that segment, very much like the Coventry segment, switch out Van Evik and talk about Hackney. Hackney's not going, is he? You can just feel it. He is not leaving that club before Monday. So, yeah, maybe a bit of a change of plan in lots of minds about Middlesbrough. A couple of more ins since we last spoke. Addison Malanda has come in from Charlotte. Didn't Derby sign a player from Charlotte as well? Has he been loaned straight back out there? Someone's going to have to correct me on that one. He's in both columns here on Transfermarkt. It says they've spent 6.9 million euros on him. Centre-back. and then it says loan transfer. I don't know what that means, so someone's going to have to explain that deal. I'm sure Boro aren't spending 7 million euros on someone and then loaning them straight back. So yeah, sorry, could have done a bit more research on that, guys, but I'm doing 24 clubs here. And as you can imagine, 3.5 days from the end of the window, there are plenty of moving parts. We know about Sver Nipan, who's coming on loan from Man City. He is one of those football manager wunderkid type dudes, isn't he? In central midfield. Always say the same thing about elite loanees. Can you get your Reece James guy, the player that you'd never be able to get for the rest of their career, but you might be able to get them when they're 18, and you might be able to get them on loan for one season and have a lot of fun, like Wigan did with Reece James, or Bristol City did with Tammy Abraham, or one of the Derby lads. Who did Derby had 3 of them, didn't they? Tamori, Mount, and Wilson, all at once under Frank Lampard in 2018-19. So we'll see if they can do the same with Nipan. And Matt Target, who we had in the Championship before with Fulham and with Villa as well. He comes in on loan at left back. That's real super solid, isn't it? The only question I've got is, will we see more outs? We mentioned Finn Azaz to Southampton. That will be a loss for Boro, but if you're keeping Hackney your real mega jewel in your crown, then I don't know. Is it all bad? You tell me. Yeah, apologies for... sorry, not Addison. Adilson Malanda. I clearly know nothing about this player, do I? So apologies for the lack of research on that. And maybe the comments can help... help do my job for me, basically there. Let's move on. Middle order. Swansea, one more in since we last spoke. Swansea were a good example of a team who went nice and early with their business this summer. We've spoken a lot about Swansea addressing, an area where you lose a Joe Allen and you lose a Matt Grimes, and, it's big in that central midfield. So Marko Stamenic, who's another one who's done this well-worn path between Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest. He's come in on a permanent, actually, from Nottingham Forest. They've had a good window, and they've had an ambitious window. Swansea, plenty of deals done, including, Galbraith is already doing well, and Inusa was big money. Plenty of frees, plenty of loans as well, although one big loan from West Ham. I quite like what Swansea have done. You often look at a club without wanting to be patronised. We said this about QPR, who we'll talk about in a minute, that, right, what is their dynamic range for being able to sign players? And if you can operate well within that range, then what more can you really do? You're not going to be, going up against Southampton to get Fellows or Azaz or, I don't know, name what, Ipswich to get Akpom or Nunes, if that one's going to be done. So, I like it. Sheffield Wednesday. What do you say? Embargo. Oi, oi, oi. So no one's going to be coming in there. And the key assets have already been prized away from Wednesday. And I suppose the good news on pitch is they're more competitive than I thought that they might be. So there you go. Norwich. It's all been about Marcelino Nunes, hasn't it? That's been the story. Obviously, Norwich's transfer window has been massively busy. On the back end of the Nunes story, Pele Matson, who's a young player coming in from Europe, looks to be being added to the pot in central midfield. But I suppose they've got Jacob Wright there. They've got Kenny McLean, who I think, did he return to the squad or the scene or something recently? So they know he can step in. But yeah, it's all about that big bombshell story for Nunes. But you would think that now means Josh Sargent will definitely stay at Norwich, wouldn't you? Norwich fans are going to be disgusted if they sell Sargent as well. Understandably so, before Monday. And look, I know you're going to be furious if you're selling a key asset to a rival club. But you tell me, how many goals, if Josh Sargent stays fit and plays 35 to 40 games in the Championship this season, potentially could score 25 to 35 goals, couldn't he? He's just scoring in every game at the moment. So, I don't know. Could we be sat here saying, well, that was a big gamble, but it worked. It paid off. We'll find out. Watford, one more in, and it's an experienced one. It's Mendy, isn't it? I think we've spoken about all the other lads in Watford. Nampalis Mendy. Didn't he used to play for Leicester? Is that right? 33 years old, central midfield from Lens. They love the market. They love the French market, don't they? They've always shopped well exotically. Watford, and it's been quite a fun window. In particular, Iran Kunda, who we spoke about probably 3 videos ago, has really caught the eye. They might be onto something there. Another Ismail Assar or João Pedro there. Watford, they do it, don't they? So, yeah, decent enough window. And Transfermarkt are reporting a profit, although Vivaldo Semedo, don't talk to me about deals between Watford and Udinese. That's coming through as undisclosed, so that might possibly bring that idea down. But still, I think a fairly decent window for Watford with Mendy, the last one in. Right, here's your bottom half from last season. A few to talk about. In fact, quite busy actually at QPR. I don't know, still thinking about a 7-1 defeat probably, aren't they? But since we last did one of these videos, we can now talk about, where does Q come in the alphabet? Sorry, LMNOPQ. There we go. We can talk about Saito. We can talk about Hayden, and we can talk about Norrington Davis. It looks like Saito, was he there on loan before? I think he possibly was, wasn't he? It's fairly expensive here, €3 million. It looks like they've spent nearly 10 million on fees here for Adamson, Burrell, Dembele, Kone and Saito. I think is the last one there. And they've also done, so it's always this mix, isn't it, of can you take a star from foreign shores and build them and, you know, either on pitch or on balance sheet, get a return from it. It's so boring we have to talk about balance sheet all the time, but hey, PSR, parachute payments, this is the world we live in. And they've got their ready-to-go signings here, Norrington, Davies and Hayden. I mean, look, Hayden's been around and about for years. He's still only 30, isn't he? In theory, if you get him fit and playing, he's a very solid central midfielder in the Championship who, you know, will be a 6 or 7 out of 10, but he'll be a 6 or 7 out of 10 all the time, won't he? Reece Norrington Davis is only 26. He's been around for the longest time. I remember him going on loan to, forget who it was from, like Stoke or something. Can't remember. Going on loan to Luton, no, and then getting redirected to Stoke. Oh no, it would have been from Sheffield United. I guess I can't remember. Anyway, he's now gone on loan to QPR, and he can play inside centre back or full back, and I bet he's played a ton of games, even though he's only 26. So again, with your Hayden and your Norrington Davis, are they going to be your mind-blowing megastar signings that are the special sauce? No, but are they the people you need to have a good team and have a good season? Yes. Plenty of work, though, for Mr. Stefan and the Rangers players to win the confidence of the fans back, as always is the case when you've just been hit for 7, as they were past weekend. Portsmouth, we've got one more in here, is Josh Knight. Is that the Josh Knight that was at Leicester and went to Wickham back in the day and Peterborough? Yes, it is. Indeed. He'd been over in Germany, had he indeed? Okay. Hanover 96, €1 million as well. I love how methodical Portsmouth are, I've got to say. If ever you want an example of a club that's got a good manager, that's trending up nicely, that's not going to overstep and do ridiculous business, and finds good angles in terms of Australia. Can you bring Swift in because he might be a Pompey lad? You know, can you find a player in Knight who knows the league, but can you pinch him from Germany where he might be off other people's radar? So, yeah. But look, the fear for Pompey, I guess, was we saw Murphy and Bishop combining beautifully for a goal. They've stayed. Segacic has started the campaign well. Looks like a good signing, doesn't he? So, yeah, looking nice for Pompey. And I assume, is that the book closed? Maybe they'll do something else before Monday. You can probably say that about every club, can't you? Oxford have bought in Ben Davies. There's two Ben Davies as well. He was at Preston, right, and went off to Liverpool. And God, he's been round and about, hasn't he? But Gary Rowett will. That'll be quite a good matchup. Him and Rowett, weren't it? A experienced, big, solid centre back, and Rowett will set him up to, not leave a big gap behind him, have the game in front of him, head it, kick it, use his experience, and Rowett and Oxford will be all about how solid can they be on a basis to work towards a point per game and then hopefully more, because without being clangingly patronising, survival will be the deal for Oxford once again this season. And yeah, they've not got big budgets to play with, but Harris, Prelic, Lancashire, Davis is alone, by the way, could see them right, and it's the only business they really can do, can't they? Stoke, Championship leaders Stoke, undefeated 100% record. Stoke have done one more. Everything's coming up roses for them. True Grant, that is about it. A 19-year-old goalkeeper from Manchester City. And if you've seen how well Victor Johansson is playing for Stoke, he will be getting nowhere near the first team. Bless him. But hey, that is the deal. And I'm sure Stoke fans will not care because they're playing rather well. And hey, Sorba Thomas may be a shout for the signing of the entire window. Maybe we'll do a little video. Who's been the best signing so far when the window closed up? We played 3 games, but Thomas is already on fire with his start to the season. Derby have finally done Lewis Travis. That one got a bit narky, didn't it? We spoke about Hutchinson and Isaac and El Canoe. I think Travis made it very clear he was going to go and play with John Eustace, who was managing him at Rovers. And he has made the move to Pride Park. I'd imagine, given how this has played out, I reckon Rovers got quite a good fee for him because they held out as long as they could, didn't they? And yeah, Travis, we had him on loan at Ipswich in the promotion season. Just proper, steady, central midfield, captain material, all of that good stuff. Proper player, proper bloke, as Mick McCarthy used to say. Max Johnston is a bit of a different one because he's only 21, in from Sturm Graz in, where's that? Austria, isn't it? He'd been up in Scotland with Motherwell and gone over to Sturm Graz. He's played in the Champions League, I think Eustace was saying in the press conference yesterday, or the club interview. So that's a fun one, isn't it? And Derby have had a fun window as well. Aguiman, we haven't yet seen on the pitch, still besieged by injuries. Johnston, Brewster, Vyman, Bart, O'Donnell, Travis. Morris is doing really well when we talk about top signings of the summer. Sanderson, Clark, Ozo, Beck, they have signed loads of players. So, yeah, they may need to sell on the back end in a couple of windows' time. But, hey, same with everybody who tries to. Imagine that, trying to be ambitious in the PSR world. Pretty much impossible. Preston have started the season well, and there's a correlation, isn't there, between teams getting the business done early and starting the season well, and teams not getting their business done early and starting the season badly. Lewis Dobbin, who was on loan at Norwich last year, and speaking of PSR, he was one of these players who miraculously passed between Aston Villa and Everton, where a few players have passed between in recent years. I will say no more. But yeah, like Jebison, really, it's one of those where you've got the player, they've gone through elite academy, wherever. Can you get the potential out? And we haven't quite seen it yet with Dobbin. But yeah, he's got a chance here at Preston, who have started the campaign well. Last one here on this page is Hull City. And just one that interests me greatly because we know Hull have been under embargo where I think it's a business plan, can't pay a fee, limited on wages, etc. Brandon Williams. Now, I'm full of hope for Brandon Williams, who is clearly a rather troubled young man, but a very talented young man who we had on loan at Ipswich. And in a couple of flashes, you saw, man, this guy could be a hell of a good football player. Seems to have made a few less than smart decisions off pitch. And, if I'm channeling empathy, optimizing here for empathy, you just want someone who's very talented, but a little bit misguided to just get it together. Come on, lad. You can do it. He's only 24 years old. He could be a great footballer. It's here that's the problem. Maybe not down there with the feet. But yeah, I'd love to see him do well. Just remember a brilliant performance, him playing for Ipswich against Preston. Just a proper box office performance. And then, yeah, couldn't keep it up, bless him. So yeah, all I'll say is good luck to Brandon Williams at Hull. Let's move on to our monster League One team. So it's like we do these videos, and I get to this slide, and it should be the last slide. And I'm like, oh, we're wrapping up now. No, got to talk about Birmingham and Wrexham and Charlton for 10 minutes now. But a little bit quieter. Obviously, they've made headlines. All three of them really for a really ambitious summer. Birmingham have done one more deal in their incredible window, really, Blues, and it is Lewis Kumas, who is massively highly rated. Where did he go? Was it Stoke last season? He's one of these. He's got two things. He's got the nepotism valuation, hasn't he? Because everyone knows the name Kumas from Jason Kumas. He's at Liverpool as well, and we've seen a Harvey Elliott come down and just absolutely boss the division. Harry Wilson, etc., etc. Been some really good ones go through Liverpool, as you'd imagine. They're the Premier League champions. And it's a great addition, that, because what you wouldn't want to be doing with Kumas is, right, you're the guy, we're relying completely on you. That's absolutely not going to be the case when, I'm trying to think who would have been the three. It would have been Damari Gray, who's the Blackpool lad, Anderson, Kyogo was playing up front. I don't think they played anybody in the 10. Maybe Tommy Doyle might step in. They've got loads of options, Birmingham. So if you can use Lewis Kumas in such a way where it's in total with the minutes, 15 to 20 appearances in the season and utilising in the right way, then I think that makes a lot of sense. He could always, you never know with these elite players, absolutely take it by storm and come alive, in which case he will then become the main man. But the point I'm making is you don't want the pressure to be on a lone player. I've mentioned Reece James again, where all of a sudden he's moved from right back at Wigan, aged 18, into central midfield. And, it's like, right, okay, Reece, save us from relegation, mate, by yourself, aged 18. Remember Harvey Elliott at Blackburn when it was just give him the ball, that's the tactics. He's an absolute wonder kid. Get him the ball, let him do his thing. Kind of fun if you've got that wonder kid type player, but yeah, Birmingham are very, very balanced in terms of their levels of talent. And yeah, what a window. Cashin, Doyle, Beadle, Kumas, Fujimoto, Gray, Neumann, Asai Samuel, Samsted, Gardner, Hickman, Dukes, Furuhashi. Wow. Hell of a window for Birmingham. Hell of a window for Wrexham, really. Although, obviously, the narrative is that they've started the season without winning a game just yet. Have the Red Dragons. But Callum Doyle, man. It says 5.8 million euros here. 21 years old. Elite club, Man City, where he's come from. The lesser spotted, left-sided English centre-back. Ticks every box, doesn't it? Yeah, and we think Wrexham are going to play a 3 all season, don't we? So that will, I'd imagine, be Doyle and Connor Cody and Cleworth. It's very good. just got to win some games, haven't they? Now, Wrexham, and it says they have spent 27 million euros this window on fees on Hardy, Thomas, and Cody Moore. Kachecha, I still can't say that. O'Brien, Doyle, and Broadhead. So I think they've had a great window. They've got to build stars, but someone like Doyle, that's a 21-year-old, that's the sort of signing that can inflate and be worth lots of money, presuming. I guess they've signed him on a nice long contract with an option as well. So, yeah, just got to do it on the pitch now, Wrexham, haven't they? But Doyle, like it a lot. You could have said, I mean, look, Doyle was in at Leicester winning the title a couple of years ago. So a couple of years younger, you literally see him in any of the 24 teams with that profile, that age and that background, can't you? Charlton will finish by saying all quiet from Charlton, who, had been nicely ambitious and, as we had imagined, have started the season by being incredibly hard to beat. Woof. Wow. Done. As I say, that will be the last transfer update video like this, because we now go into a round of fixtures, don't we? Whereby, obviously tonight we'll be doing a watch along Birmingham, Leicester. I'm working on a gig tomorrow. We'll do the hot takes on Sunday. And then when we get into Monday, all hell's going to break loose. And maybe we'll do some kind of live stream or something of that nature. But we'll reflect properly on the transfer window on Tuesday, when all is said and after all is said and done. Name that tune and that artist from the 90s there in the comments. But more importantly than silly 90s pop songs. By the way, my gig tomorrow is That's So 90s. So I've got it on the brain. If you're over in Tewkesbury at the Roses Theatre, let me know, and I'll come and say hello after the show if you come along. But yeah, stop my needless pluggery here. It's not needless. Stop my voracious pluggery and tell you, get down in the comments. Let me know about the window. Let me know about what still needs to be done with 3 games to go. And yeah, we'll try and get an idea. I'll put a poll up in terms of maybe some star ratings or scores out of 10 for your club's transfer window. Woof! All done. And I'm sure in the time I've been sat here, another 8 deals have been announced. So we can only do what we can do here. It's 11 a.m. We'll try and get this up and we'll try and get caught up by Monday. And we'll see you all tonight for Leicester versus Birmingham.